guys? Welcome back to another episode of Coast2Coast podcast. Today, it's me, Liam, here, and we're going to be talking about some NFL power rankings brought to you by Coast2Coast. We have our top 12 teams in the NFL after Week 7 heading into Week 8. And without further ado, let's hop straight into this list. Coming in at our number 12 spot, we have the Las Vegas Raiders coming off a win this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, not a very impressive 2-5 Eagles team, but the team has been able to string together wins at 5-2 now, first place in the dominant AFC West. These Raiders could scrap together and make a wild card potentially. A team that I was very low on to begin the season. They seem like they're getting their stuff together. We're seeing an emergence from Henry Ruggs at wide receiver, the number one player in terms of yards per catch in the NFL. We have obviously Darren Waller and a stellar defensive line, perhaps, led by the man himself, Max Crosby, who's having a phenomenal season on the edge there. We also have Yannick Ngakoue. I think this team, they're going to be fighting really hard in this division, especially if we see the Chiefs begin to pick it up. Obviously, the Broncos are not an easy team to get out, and of course, the Chargers are the Chargers, so they got my number 12 spot. Coming at the number 11 spot, we have the Cleveland Browns, who came off a Thursday Night Football victory to the Denver Broncos without quarterback Baker Mayfield and missing plenty of starters on this team. The reason why I can't put this team any higher, though, is they haven't really beat a good opponent. The Vikings are the best team that they beat this year, but when they face teams that they're probably going to meet in the playoffs, the Chiefs, if they find a way to make it in, the Chargers, and even if they somehow pull off a Super Bowl run, the Cardinals potential team, they haven't been able to win, and they're able to see that. Until then, though, until this team's healthy, I think it's going to be a while until we see what they can prove themselves. But they have obviously one of the best running games in the league. We saw Dearness Johnson this week dominate in the role filling in for Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. But for now, I got Cleveland at 11. Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have the Los Angeles Chargers, who on this week were currently a bye. But in their last game against the Baltimore Ravens, as shown on screen right now, they were decimated, blown out by Baltimore, who then lost this week, which we'll get into in a minute. But for this Chargers team, we got to see them get back on good terms. Obviously, one of the best receiving duos in the league, with fifth-year wideout Mike Williams seeming to finally break out onto the scene, with Keenan Allen still being that reliable safety blanket, and Austin Eckler looking like he's on his way to potentially an all-pro season at running back. However, though, this defense needs to step up against the Cleveland Browns. They've allowed 42 points, which is something we can't see. And if the Chargers want to be able to contend in one of the toughest divisions in football, they got to show what's better than that they've been playing recently. So we got the Chargers at 10. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who in their Week 7 matchup versus the Cincinnati Bengals fell in a blowout loss that saw Cincinnati move up to 5-2 in first place in the AFC. In terms of this Baltimore team, though, Lamar might just be playing too much hero ball, especially with all the injuries this team has seen this year. Obviously, left tackle Ronnie Stanley has been out. Marcus Peters will miss the season. You also got all these running backs, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Hill out as well. But we're going to have to see, because this passing game is going to have to step up a lot. We have a lot of veteran running backs, but with Rashad Bateman, the rookie out of Minnesota, coming back off the injury reserve, we should be able to see him provide a lot for this team. He led the team in targets just a couple weeks ago, so we'll have to see. I think this Baltimore team, they should be able to get into these playoffs with ease, but there's no small matchup to go against in this division anymore with the way the Bengals have been playing. So our number 9 slot, we got the Baltimore Ravens. At the number 8 spot, we have the Buffalo Bills. After a bye week and losing to the Tennessee Titans, they fall down a little bit in these rankings due to some other teams outperforming this week. But what's the deal with these Buffalo Bills? Well, we see them having an improving running game this year with Josh Allen, Zach Moss, and Devin Singletary all getting work in this offense. And in terms of the wide receiver game, we see Emmanuel Sanders having a huge impact, Stephon Diggs not playing as great as he's been, but still having a good season so far. And the tight end position is where we've seen a breakout from Dawson Knox. And taking a look over at the defense, Gregory Rousseau has been their number 1 leader in terms of sacks. Can he keep that up? Who knows? But for now, I'm keeping Buffalo at number 8 until they can show that they can bounce back from that loss against the Tennessee Titans. Coming in at the number 7 spot, we have the Cincinnati Bengals coming off a huge win versus the Baltimore Ravens this week. We saw Jamar Chase solidify himself as the top offensive rookie of the year candidate and potentially a top 10 receiver this year. That Joe Burrow connection is deadly. On top of that, we have CJ Uzomah playing fantastic at the tight end position for them. Seeming like that Penei Sewell pick wasn't one that had to happen. This team's finding ways to win. Wins against the Vikings week 1, win against the Steelers. I still think, despite this win against the Ravens, they need to find another team that they need to go against and prove that they can win. A really tough schedule coming up for them. They got the Jets coming up, but then they have some really hard games going forward. But if the Cincinnati Bengals team can show some strides, it's going to be a deadly future for this team with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase at the helm. So, the Bengals at number 7. Coming in at the number 6 spot, we got the Tennessee Titans, coming off 2 huge wins in the last weeks, beating the Baltimore Ravens and making the Kansas City Chiefs look nothing like a playoff team. And real questions are rising. Can this Kansas City team make it to the playoffs at 3-4 with still a very tough schedule of teams to face going forward? But otherwise, in terms of the Tennessee Titans, we see Julio Jones returning from injury. We have A.J. Brown finally balling this year. And of course, there's the king himself. I don't think anyone's going to stop this man. Seems like he's well on to go for 2,000 yards again. Just crazy to see from him. In terms of this defense, Harold Landry ranks in the top 5 in the league in sacks. Looking to get more production from Bud Dupree. Otherwise, this team just got to keep rolling. They got a divisional matchup against the Colts going forward. But this Tennessee Titans team looks like they'll be able to find themselves potentially a top 3 spot in the AFC playoffs. So, Titans, number 6. Coming in at the number 5 spot, we have the reliable Green Bay Packers, quietly 6-1 this season, but finding themselves at number 5 on this list. And why is that? Well, they seem to be firing on all cylinders. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are performing very well as that backfield duo. Obviously, Davante Adams is just the king of all wide receivers right now, continuing to dominate and showing that he's the clear-cut number 1 guy. Obviously, going into their matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals, we're going to have to see them really show if they're really that team that can go out there and win a championship this year. If it's Aaron Rodgers' last season, we need to see him ball out. And with Davante Adams missing this game, it's going to see who can step up for them, who can be there where they don't have their number 1 guy. Otherwise, Green Bay Packers, number 5 on this list. Hopping in to our top 4 and kicking it off, we got the Dallas Cowboys, moving down just 1 ranking because the Buccaneers had such a dominant victory this weekend. But let's talk about these Cowboys. Obviously, Jose, he loves them boys, but what have they been up to this season? Well, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb have been balling for them, especially CeeDee Lamb in that last game against the Patriots, putting up the deuces to Jalen Mills as he walks away with that game-winning touchdown. But this running game has really been what's popping for them. Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott are 2 of the best rushers in the league this year, on pace for Tony Pollard to finish over 1,000 yards, which would be crazy to see 2 backs finish over 1,000 yards rushing on the same team. And this defense, obviously led by the star corner in the making this year, Trevon Diggs, getting picks after picks. It's been the first week this season we haven't seen a Trevon Diggs pick because he wasn't playing. Crazy to see about that. Hopefully DeMarcus Lawrence can return soon, be able to provide that pass rush alongside Micah Parsons, who's been having a phenomenal rookie season so far. But the Dallas Cowboys are at our 4 slot. Into the top 3 we go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who dominated the Chicago Bears in this matchup. And what's going on with these Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Well, after losing their secondary, it seems like this offense has become extremely electric. Leonard Fournette is moving up the ranks as one of the top running backs this season, shining out when people thought this running back would be a committee duo with Ronald Jones, who seems to be absolutely invisible in this team. But Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Mike Evans look to be going well over 1,000 yards this season. And Mike Evans, he's still that touchdown machine that we all saw last year, so maybe we were fading him too hard. Who knows? Tom Brady still seems to be on top of his game. And, this defense is going to show out when they're going to need to show out. Shutting down those Bears, not letting Justin Fields do much at all. So Tampa Bay finding it at the 3 spot. Now, our number 2 team is the Los Angeles Rams, who a very interesting game this Sunday going against the Lions. Obviously, you got Matt Stafford return against his team, but Jared Goff coming in to SoFi Stadium to go against his former team, and they were up 10-0 in that first quarter. But, the Rams can never count them out. Sean McVay knows what he's up to and can't ever stop talking about Cooper Kupp. This man's having a crazy year. Looked like he's going to be finishing as one of the best receivers in the league this year. Already has 800 yards receiving. It's just crazy to see top of the league in the receiving touchdowns as well. But, not seeing a crazy year in terms of numbers from this defense, but they're doing well. But it seems like to be the offense with Matthew Stafford. They're firing on all cylinders. Darrell Henderson's doing well. The replacement of Cam Akers, which is going to be crazy to see when Cam Akers is finally back next season. But Robert Woods is still getting integrated into this offense. But right now, we get the Rams at 2 because this number 1 team is on fire. An undefeated record, firing on all cylinders, offensively, defensively. This is the number 1 team in the power rankings. It's the Arizona Cardinals, dominating the Houston Texans. And who's going to stop these guys? They go against the Packers on Thursday Night Football this week, but they're going to be without Devontae Adams. So are they going to be able to capitalize that? We'll have to see. But receiving game, we've seen Rondale Moore getting heavily involved early in the season. He still has got his role in this offense. AJ Green's taking a big step. Obviously, you got D-Hop himself, Christian Kirk. Now you just added Zach Ertz, who had a big touchdown in his debut. You got Chase Edmonds and James Conner being a fantastic pairing out there in the backfield. And then on the defense, you got Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt. You got Isaiah Simmons. You got Budda Baker. You got Byron Murphy stepping in that Patrick Peterson role as the number 1 corner. Who's going to finally stop these Arizona Cardinals? Who knows? But, even with a loss, I still think these guys are Super Bowl contenders this year. Is Cliff Kingsbury, does he deserve to get respect? We'll have to see. He still made some pretty bad decisions this season. But Arizona Cardinals are going to top this list at the number 1 spot. That's all for listening to this episode. If you want to see the rankings in a graphic, check it out in our Instagram. Link is below. But without further ado, this is our Power Rankings Top 12 NFL Week 8. Thanks for listening. Coast to Coast Podcast, signing out. Peace.